welcome to Presently Engaged Through the Bible, the 5-day Bible reading podcast. I'm Mandy Pallock, and we're enjoying the Word together. Today we find joy in 2 Samuel 3 through 5, 1 Chronicles 12, Psalm 122, and Acts 22. This is the word of the Lord. 2 Samuel 3. Now the war between the house of Saul and the house of David was protracted, and David grew stronger and stronger, while the house of Saul grew weaker and weaker. And sons were born to David in Hebron. His firstborn was Amnon by Ahinoam of Jezreel. His second was Chileab by Abigail, the widow of Nabal of Carmel. His third was Absalom, the son of Maacah, daughter of King Talmai of Geshur. His fourth was Adonijah, the son of Haggith. His fifth was Shephatiah, the son of Abital. And his sixth was Ithream by David's wife Eglah. These sons were born to David in Hebron. During the war between the house of Saul and the house of David, Abner had continued to strengthen his position in the house of Saul. Meanwhile, Saul had a concubine named Rizpah, the daughter of Aiah. So Ishbosheth questioned Abner, "Why did you sleep with my father's concubine?" Abner was furious over Ishbosheth's accusation. "Am I the head of a dog that belongs to Judah?" he asked. "All this time I have been loyal to the house of your father Saul, to his brothers, and to his friends. I have not delivered you into the hand of David, but now you accuse me of wrongdoing with this woman? May God punish Abner, and ever so severely, if I do not do for David what the Lord has sworn to him, to transfer the kingdom from the house of Saul, and to establish the throne of David over Israel and Judah from Dan to Beersheba." And for fear of Abner, Ishbosheth did not dare to say another word to him. Then Abner sent messengers in his place to say to David, "To whom does the land belong? Make your covenant with me, and surely my hand will be with you to bring all Israel over to you." "Good," replied David, "I will make a covenant with you. But there is one thing I require of you. Do not appear before me unless you bring Saul's daughter Michal when you come to see me." Then David sent messengers to say to Ishbosheth, son of Saul, "Give me back my wife Michal, whom I betrothed to myself, for 100 Philistine foreskins." So Ishbosheth sent and took Michal from her husband Paltiel, son of Laish. Her husband followed her, weeping all the way to Bahurim. Then Abner said to him, "Go back." So he returned home. Now Abner conferred with the elders of Israel and said, "In the past you sought David as your king. Now take action, because the Lord has said to David, 'Through my servant David I will save my people Israel from the hands of the Philistines and of all their enemies.'" Abner also spoke to the Benjamites and went to Hebron to tell David all that seemed good to Israel and to the whole house of Benjamin. When Abner and 20 of his men came to David at Hebron, David held a feast for them. Then Abner said to David, "Let me go at once, and I will gather all Israel to my lord the king, that they may make a covenant with you, and that you may rule over all that your heart desires." So David dismissed Abner, and he went in peace. Just then, David's soldiers and Joab returned from a raid, bringing with them a great plunder. But Abner was not with David in Hebron because David had sent him on his way in peace. When Joab and all his troops arrived, he was informed, "Abner son of Ner came to see the king, who sent him on his way in peace." So Joab went to the king and said, "What have you done? Look, Abner came to you. Why did you dismiss him? Now he is getting away. Surely you realize that Abner son of Ner came to deceive you and to track your movements and all that you are doing." As soon as Joab had left David, he sent messengers after Abner, who brought him back from the well of Sirah. But David was unaware of it. When Abner returned to Hebron, Joab pulled him aside into the gateway as if to speak to him privately. And there, Joab stabbed him in the stomach. So Abner died on account of the blood of Joab's brother Asahel. Afterward, David heard about this and said, I and my kingdom are forever guiltless before the Lord concerning the blood of Abner, son of Ner. May it whirl over the heads of Joab and the entire house of his father. And may the house of Joab never be without one having a discharge or skin disease, or one who leans on a staff, or falls by the sword, or lacks food. Joab and his brother Abishai murdered Abner because he had killed their brother Asahel in the battle of Gibeon. Then David ordered Joab and all the people with him, "Tear your clothes, put on sackcloth, and mourn before Abner." And King David himself walked behind the funeral bier. When they buried Abner in Hebron, the king wept aloud at Abner's tomb, and all the people wept. And the king sang this lament for Abner: "Should Abner die the death of a fool? Your hands were not bound, your feet were not fettered. As a man falls before the wicked, so also you fell." And all the people wept over him even more. Then all the people came and urged David to eat something while it was still day. But David took an oath, saying, "May God punish me, and ever so severely, if I taste bread or anything else before the sun sets." All the people took note and were pleased. In fact, everything the king did pleased them. So on that day, all the troops and all Israel were convinced that the king had no part in the murder of Abner, son of Ner. Then the king said to his servants, "Do you not realize that a great prince has fallen today in Israel? And I am weak this day, though anointed as king, and these men, the sons of Zeruiah, are too fierce for me. May the Lord repay the evildoer according to his evil." 2 Samuel 4. Now when Ishbosheth, son of Saul, heard that Abner had died in Hebron, he lost courage, and all Israel was dismayed. Saul's son had 2 men who were leaders of raiding parties. One was named Baanah, and the other Rechab. They were sons of Rimmon the Beerothite, of the tribe of Benjamin. Beeroth is considered part of Benjamin, because the Beerothites fled to Getaim and have lived there as foreigners to this day. And Jonathan, son of Saul, had a son who was lame in his feet. He was 5 years old when the report about Saul and Jonathan came from Jezreel. His nurse picked him up and fled, but as she was hurrying to escape, he fell and became lame. His name was Mephibosheth. Now Rechab and Baanah, the sons of Rimmon the Beerothite, set out and arrived at the house of Ishbosheth in the heat of the day, while the king was taking his midday nap. They entered the interior of the house as if to get some wheat, and they stabbed him in the stomach. Then Rechab and his brother Baanah slipped away. They had entered the house while Ishbosheth was lying on his bed, and having stabbed and killed him, they beheaded him, took his head, and traveled all night by way of the Arabah. They brought the head of Ishbosheth to David at Hebron and said to the king, "Here is the head of Ishbosheth, king of Saul, your enemy who sought your life. Today the Lord has granted vengeance to my lord the king against Saul and his offspring." But David answered Rechab and his brother Baanah, the sons of Rimmon the Beerothite, "As surely as the Lord lives, who has redeemed my life from all distress, when someone told me, 'Look, Saul is dead,' and thought he was the bearer of good news, I seized him and put him to death at Ziklag. That was his reward for his news. How much more when wicked men kill a righteous man in his own house and on his own bed? Shall I not now require his blood from your hands and remove you from the earth?" So David commanded his young men, and they killed Rechab and Baanah. They cut off their hands and feet and hung their bodies by the pool in Hebron. But they took the head of Ishbosheth and buried it in Abner's tomb in Hebron. 2 Samuel 5. Then all the tribes of Israel came to David at Hebron and said, "Here we are, your own flesh and blood. Even in times past, when Saul was king over us, you were the one who led Israel out and brought them back. And to you the Lord said, 'You will shepherd my people Israel, and you will be ruler over them.'" So all the elders of Israel came to the king at Hebron, where King David made with them a covenant before the Lord, and they anointed him king over Israel. David was 30 years old when he became king, and he reigned 40 years. In Hebron, he reigned over Judah 7 years and 6 months, and in Jerusalem, he reigned 33 years over all Israel and Judah. Now the king and his men marched to Jerusalem against the Jebusites who inhabited the land. The Jebusites said to David, "You will never get in here. Even the blind and lame can repel you." For they thought, "David cannot get in here." Nevertheless, David captured the fortress of Zion, that is the city of David. On that day, he said, "Whoever attacks the Jebusites must use the water shaft to reach the lame and blind who are despised by David." That is why it is said, "The blind and the lame will never enter the palace." So David took up residence in the fortress and called it the city of David. He built it up all the way around, from the supporting terraces inward. And David became greater and greater, for the Lord God of hosts was with him. Now Hiram, king of Tyre, sent envoys to David, along with cedar logs, carpenters, and stonemasons, and they built a palace for David. And David realized that the Lord had established him as king over Israel and had exalted his kingdom for the sake of his people Israel. After he had arrived from Hebron, David took more concubines and wives from Jerusalem, and more sons and daughters were born to him. These are the names of the children born to him in Jerusalem: Shemua, Shobab, Nathan, Solomon, Ibhar, Elishua, Nepheg, Japhia, Elishama, Eliada, and Eliphalet. When the Philistines heard that David had been anointed king over Israel, they all went in search of him. But David learned of this and went down to the stronghold. Now the Philistines had come and spread out in the valley of Rephaim. So David inquired of the Lord, "Should I go up against the Philistines? Will you deliver them into my hand?" "Go," replied the Lord, "for I will surely deliver the Philistines into your hand." So David went to Baal Perazim, where he defeated the Philistines and said, "Like a bursting flood, the Lord has burst out against my enemies before me." So he called that place Baal Perazim. There the Philistines abandoned their idols, and David and his men carried them away. Once again the Philistines came up and spread out in the valley of Rephaim. So David inquired of the Lord, who answered, "Do not march straight up, but circle around behind them and attack them in front of the balsam trees. As soon as you hear the sound of marching in the tops of the balsam trees, move quickly, because this will mean that the Lord has marched out before you to strike the camp of the Philistines." So David did as the Lord had commanded him, and he struck down the Philistines all the way from Gibeon to Gezer. 1 Chronicles 12. Now these were the men who came to David at Ziklag, while he was still banished from the presence of Saul, son of Kish. They were among the mighty who helped him in battle. They were archers using both the right and left hands to sling stones and shoot arrows, and they were Saul's kinsmen from Benjamin. Ahiezer, their chief, and Joash, who were the sons of Shemaiah, the Gibeathite. Jeziel and Pelet, the sons of Asmaveth. Berekah, Jehu the Anathothite, Ishmaiah the Gibeonite, a mighty man among the 30, and a leader over the 30. Jeremiah, Jehaziel, Johanan, and Jozabad the Gederathite. Eluzai, Jeremoth, Baaliah, Shemariah, and Shephatiah the Heraphite. Elkanah, Ishiah, Azarel, Joezer, and Joshobim, who were Korahites. And Jola and Zebediah, the sons of Jeroham from Gedor. Some Gadites defected to David at his stronghold in the desert. They were mighty men of valor, trained for battle, experts with a shield and spear, whose faces were like the faces of lions, and who were as swift as gazelles on the mountains. Ezer the chief, Obadiah the second in command, Eliab the third, Mishmanah the fourth, Jeremiah the fifth, Adai the sixth, Eliel the seventh, Johanan the eighth, Elzabad the ninth, Jeremiah the 10th, and Machbanai the 11th. These Gadites were army commanders, the least of whom was a match for 100, and the greatest for 1,000. These are the ones who crossed the Jordan in the first month when it was overflowing all its banks, and they put to flight all those in the valleys, both to the east and to the west. Other Benjamites and some men from Judah also came to David in his stronghold. And David went out to meet them, saying, "If you have come to me in peace to help me, my heart will be united with you. But if you have come to betray me to my enemies when my hands are free of violence, may the God of our fathers see it and judge you." Then the Spirit came upon Amasai, the chief of the 30, and he said, "We are yours, O David. We are with you, O son of Jesse. Peace, peace to you, and peace to your helpers, for your God helps you." So David received them and made them leaders of his troops. Some from Manasseh defected to David when he went with the Philistines to fight against Saul. They did not help the Philistines because the Philistine rulers consulted and sent David away, saying, "It will cost us our heads if he defects to his master Saul." When David went to Ziklag, these men of Manasseh defected to him: Adnah, Jozabad, Jediel, Michael, Jozabad, Elihu, and Zelathai, chiefs of thousands in Manasseh. They helped David against the raiders, for they were all mighty men of valor and commanders in the army. For at that time, men came to David day after day to help him until he had a great army, like the army of God. Now these are the numbers of men armed for battle who came to David at Hebron to turn Saul's kingdom over to him in accordance with the word of the Lord. From Judah, 6,800 armed troops bearing shields and spears. From Simeon, 7,100 mighty men of valor ready for battle. From Levi, 4,600, including Jehoiada, leader of the house of Aaron, with 3,700 men, and Zadok, a mighty young man of valor, with 22 commanders from his own family. From Benjamin, the kinsman of Saul, 3,000, most of whom had remained loyal to the house of Saul up to that time. From Ephraim, 20,800 mighty men of valor, famous among their own clans. From the half-tribe of Manasseh, 18,000 designated by name to come and make David king. From Issachar, men who understood the times and knew what Israel should do, 200 chiefs with all their kinsmen at their command. From Zebulun, 50,000 fit for service, trained for battle with all kinds of weapons of war, who with one purpose were devoted to David. From Naphtali, 1,000 commanders, accompanied by 37,000 men with shield and spear. From Dan, 28,600 prepared for battle. From Asher, 40,000 fit for service, prepared for battle. And from east of the Jordan, from Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh there, 120,000 armed with every kind of weapon of war. All these men of war, arrayed for battle, came to Hebron fully determined to make David king over all Israel. And all the rest of the Israelites were of one mind to make David king. They spent 3 days there eating and drinking with David, for their relatives had provided for them. And their neighbors from as far away as Issachar, Zebulun, and Naphtali came bringing food on donkeys, camels, mules, and oxen, abundant supplies of flour, fig cakes, and raisin cakes, wine and oil, oxen and sheep. Indeed, there was joy in Israel. Psalm 122, a song of ascents of David. I was glad when they said to me, "Let us go to the house of the Lord." Our feet are standing in your gates, O Jerusalem. Jerusalem is built up as a city united together, where the tribes go up, the tribes of the Lord, as a testimony for Israel, to give thanks to the name of the Lord. For there the thrones of judgment stand, the thrones of the house of David. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May those who love you prosper. May there be peace within your walls and prosperity inside your fortresses. For the sake of my brothers and friends, I will say, peace be within you. For the sake of the house of the Lord our God, I will seek your prosperity. Acts 22. Brothers and fathers, listen now to my defense before you. When they heard him speak to them in Hebrew, they became even more silent. Then Paul declared, I am a Jew, born in Tarsus of Cilicia, but raised in this city. I was educated at the feet of Gamaliel in strict conformity to the law of our fathers. I am just as zealous for God as any of you here today. I persecuted this way even to the death, detaining both men and women and throwing them into prison, as the high priest and the whole council can testify about me. I even obtained letters from them to their brothers in Damascus, and I was on my way to apprehend these people and bring them to Jerusalem to be punished. About noon, as I was approaching Damascus, suddenly a bright light from heaven flashed around me. I fell to the ground and heard a voice say to me, "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" "Who are you, Lord?" I asked. "I am Jesus of Nazareth, whom you are persecuting," he replied. My companions saw the light, but they did not understand the voice of the one speaking to me. Then I asked, "What should I do, Lord?" "Get up and go into Damascus," he told me. "There you will be told all that you have been appointed to do." Because the brilliance of the light had blinded me, my companions led me by the hand into Damascus. There, a man named Ananias, a devout observer of the law, who was highly regarded by all the Jews living there, came and stood beside me. "Brother Saul," he said, "receive your sight." And at that moment, I could see him. Then he said, "The voice of our fathers has appointed you to know his will, and to see the righteous one, and to hear his voice. You will be his witness to everyone of what you have seen and heard. And now what are you waiting for? Get up, be baptized, and wash your sins away, calling on his name." Later, when I had returned to Jerusalem and was praying at the temple, I fell into a trance and saw the Lord saying to me, "Hurry, leave Jerusalem quickly, because the people here will not accept your testimony about me." "Lord," I answered, "they know very well that in one synagogue after another I imprisoned and beat those who believed in you. And when the blood of your witness Stephen was shed, I stood there giving my approval and watching over the garments of those who killed him." Then he said to me, "Go, I will send you far away to the Gentiles." The crowd listened to Paul until he made this statement. Then they lifted up their voices and shouted, "Rid the earth of him! He is not fit to live!" As they were shouting and throwing off their cloaks and tossing dust into the air, the commander ordered that Paul be brought into the barracks. He directed that Paul be flogged and interrogated to determine the reason for this outcry against him. But as they stretched him out to strap him down, Paul said to the centurion standing there, "Is it lawful for you to flog a Roman citizen without a trial?" On hearing this, the centurion went and reported it to the commander. "What are you going to do?" he said. "This man is a Roman citizen." The commander went to Paul and asked, "Tell me, are you a Roman citizen?" "Yes," he answered. "I paid a high price for my citizenship," said the commander. "But I was born a citizen," Paul replied. Then those who were about to interrogate Paul stepped back, and the commander himself was alarmed when he realized that he had put a Roman citizen in chains. The next day, the commander, wanting to learn the real reason Paul was accused by the Jews, released him and ordered the chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin to assemble. Then he brought Paul down and had him stand before them. And now, you who are made in God's image, may the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with all of you.